Welcome back, y'all. Happy holidays. Happy New Year, even though this ain't the real New Year. It's in March. But anyway, happy holidays. I'm going live. I have to do some of the content, why this channel was set up. So I don't know. Russell Vault, he was, dang, you know what? Let me see something. He wrote a chapter in the book Project 2025, and Trump said he didn't have anything to do with it, but he appointed um Russ Vaught, and he wrote chapter 2, the executive office of the president. So this is what Trump picks Project 2025 co-author Russell Vaught to lead budget office, which is what he did in the previous administration. President-elect Donald Trump named Russell Vaught a co-author of Project 2025, who served as platform policy director for the Republic for the RNC as his pick to lead the Office of Management and Budget. In a statement announced his pick, Trump referred to Vaught, who previously held the role in his first term, as an aggressive cost cutter and deregulator who will help us implement our America First agenda across all agencies. Russ knows exactly how to dismantle the deep state and to end weaponized government, and he will help us return to self governments to the people. Trump said, "We will restore fiscal sanity to our nation and unleash the American people to new levels of prosperity and ingenuity." Vaught responded to Trump's nomination in the post to X on Friday. "Thank you at the real Donald Trump. There's unfinished business on behalf of the American people, and it's the honor of a lifetime to get the call again." In the chapter Vaught authored for the Project 2025, he argued the OMB director should present a fiscal goal to the president early in the budget development process to address the federal government's fiscal irresponsibility. Though some mistakenly regard it as a mere paper pushing exercise, the president's budget is in fact a powerful mechanism for setting and enforcing public policy at federal agencies. During an interview with Tucker Carlson, I gotta watch that, Vaughn advocated for the president taking greater control over government agencies, saying Trump has to move executively as fast and as aggressively as possible. "We have to solve the woke and weaponized bureaucracy and have the president take control of the executive branch. There may be different strategies with each one of them about how to dismantle them, but as an administration, the whole notion of an independent agency should be thrown out." Though Trump and many of his allies distance themselves from Project 2025, an initiative that includes policy proposals led by the right leaning think tank Heritage Foundation and other conservative groups for a Republican administration. On the campaign trail, many people associated with the agenda have been tapped for positions in the incoming Trump administration. Some of these names have included Tom Homan, Border Czar, Brandon Carr as chairman of Federal Communications Commission, and John Ratcliffe of the CIA. You know what? I need to take a picture of that. If he is confirmed by the Senate, Vaught will oversee budget and execution of Trump's policies across executive department of agencies. Stephen Miller, Trump's expected incoming deputy chief of staff, called Vaught a transformative pick for the budget office. Russ Vought has been the guy for the last 4 years who's been developing the plan to take down the deep state. Wow. Miller said during a Fox News interview. That's Russ, and he's going to be right there at the OMB to execute that plan. This is really incredible stuff. Vogt previously served as Director of Office of Management during Trump's first term. He assumed the role after working as Deputy Director and Acting Director of that office before his Senate confirmation in July 2020. Trump also announced a flurry of other key cabinet picks on Friday night. Okay, let me see. He named NFL player in Texas State Representative Scott Turner as his nominee for Housing and Urban Development. Representative Lloyd Chavez Demire, Oregon, to serve as Labor Secretary. Trump also now nominated Surgeon Marty McCary as Commissioner for Food and Drug Administration and said that he would select former Representative Dave Weldon as his nominee to serve as Director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Trump also said that Sebastian Corky, a former aide, would serve as Deputy Assistant and Senior Director for Counterterrorism. All right, so let's get into this. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Now, this Executive Office of the President of the United States, Russ Vought. I'm probably going to do this in two parts. In its opening words, Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution makes it abundantly clear that the executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States of America. That enormous power is not vested in departments or agencies, in staff or administrative bodies, in non governmental organizations, or other equities and interests close to the government. The president must set and enforce a plan for the executive branch. Sadly, however, a president today assumes office to find a sprawling federal bureaucracy that all too often is carrying out its own policy plans and preferences, or worse yet, the policy plans and preferences of a radical, supposedly woke faction of the country. The modern conservative president's task is to limit, control, and direct the executive branch on behalf of the American people. That's true. Agreed. This challenge is created and exacerbated by factors like Congress' decades long tendency to delegate its lawmaking power to agency bureaucracies, the pervasive notion of expert independence that protects so called expert authorities from scrutiny, the presumed inability to hold career civil service accountable for their performance, and the increasing reality that many agencies are not only too big and powerful, but also increasingly weaponized against the public and a president who is elected by the people and empowered by the Constitution to govern. In Federalist Number 47, James Madison warned that the accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, in the same hands, whether of one, a few, or many, and whether hereditary, self-appointed, or elective, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny. Regrettably, that wise and cautionary note describes to a significant degree the modern executive branch, which, whether controlled by bureaucracy or by the president, writes federal policy, enforces the policy, and often adjudicates whether that policy was properly drafted and enforced. The overall situation is constitutionally dire, unsustainably expensive, and in urgent need of repair. Nothing less than the survival of self-government in America is at stake. Hmm. The great challenge confronting a conservative president is the existential need for aggressive use of vast powers of the executive branch to return power, including power currently held by the executive branch, to the American people. That's how it's supposed to be anyway. You work for the people, not for the powers that be, not for the 1%. You're supposed to work for the people. Success in meeting that challenge will require a rare combination of boldness and self denial. Boldness to bend or break the bureaucracy to the president's will, and self denial to use the bureaucratic machine to send power away from Washington and back to the American families, faith communities, local governments, and states. Fortunately, a president who is willing to lead will find in the executive office of president the levers necessary to reverse this trend and impose a sound direction for the nation on the federal bureaucracy. The effectiveness of those levers depends on the fundamental premise that it's the president's agenda that should matter to the departments and agencies but operate under his constitutional authority, and that as a general matter, it is the president's chosen advisors who have the best sense of the president's aims and intentions. Okay. Now, he was named, like I said, to the Office of Management and Budget. So that's what he is. OMB assists the president in the execution of his policy agenda across the government by employing many statutory and executive procedural levels to bring the bureaucracy in line with the budgetary, regulatory, and management decisions. Properly understood, it is a president's air traffic control system with the ability and charge. Oh, something just came across my screen. I'm gonna talk about that. To ensure that all policy initiatives are flying in sync and with the authority to let planes take off and at times ground planes that are flying off course. The key OMB's key role, and this is the U.S. Office of Management and Budget. First, developing and enforcing the president's budget, executing the appropriations laws that fund the government, managing agency and personal performance, procurement policies, financial management, and information technology. Developing the president's regulatory agenda, reviewing new regulatory actions, reviewing federal information collections, and setting and enforcing federal information, and coordinating and clearing agency communications with Congress, including testimonies and views on draft legislation. OMB cannot perform its role on behalf of the president effectively if it is not intimately involved in all aspects of the White House policy process and lacks knowledge of what the agencies are doing. Internally to the EOP, ensuring the policy for mutilation, no, mutilation procedures developed by the White House to serve the president include OBM is one of many director major responsibilities. A common meaning of this, you know what, I'm going to skip this. Okay. The director must view his job as the best, most comprehensive approximation of the president's mind as it pertains to the policy agenda while always being ready with actual options to effect that agenda within existing legal authorities and resources. This role cannot be performed adequately if the director acts instead as an ambassador of the institutional interests of OMB and the wider bureaucracy to the White House. Once its reputation as keeper of the commander's intent is established, then and only then does OMB have the ability to shape the most efficient way to pursue an objective. The, the director must ensure that OMB has sufficient visibility into the deep cavings of agency decision making. One indispensable statutory tool to that end is to ensure that the policy officials, the program associate director managing the vast resources management office, personally sign what are known as appointments. Okay, then he goes on to give that history among mm, it should be noted that OMB's primary functions, along with other executive and statutory rules, is carried out with the help of many essential OMB support offices. The two most important offices for moving OBM at the will of the director are the Budget Review Division and the Office of General Counsel. The director should have direct and effective relationship with the head of the council and transmit instructions through the office because the rest of the agency is institutionally inclined toward its direction and responds accordingly. The key considerations in enacting a president agenda, the director must ensure the appointment of a general counsel who is respected yet creative and fearless in his or her role and her abilities to challenge legal precedents that serve to protect the status quo. Okay. In general, the director shall empower a strong deputy director with authority over the Department of Management, the PAS, and the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs to work diligently to break down barriers within OMB and not allow turf disputes or lack of visibility to undermine the agency's principal budget management and regulatory functions. Now, this how you know the United States broke. Anytime you $36 trillion in debt, United States is broke, 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 broke. Period. All they doing is printing money. That's it. That's it. Now, when this was written, the United was facing a $31 trillion budget, so I'm just throwing 36 trillion. That is steadily increasing. The OMB director should present a fiscal goal to the president early in budget development process to address the federal government's fiscal irresponsibility. This goal will help to align the months long process of developing the actual proposal for inclusion in the budget. So, so now he's saying that the political appointees known as PAD and a career dad are separated into six functions: national security, national resources, energy, science, health, education, income maintenance and labor, transportation, justice, homeland security, treasury, commerce, and housing. Because the RMOs are institutionally ingrained in nearly all policy making and implementation across the executive branch, they play a critical role in helping the director to implement the president's public policy agenda. However, because each RMO is responsible for formulating and supervising such a wide range of policy details, many granular but critical policy decisions are effectively left to the career professionals who serve across administrations. Okay, I'm going to skip that. The management office of OMB is responsible for carrying out several important agency oversight functions, many which are statutory. The management team includes the following offices: the Office of Federal Procurement Policy, the Office of Performance and Personal Management, the Office of Federal Financial Management, the Office of Federal Chief Information Officer, the Made in America office, which was added by the Biden administration and is not a Senate confirmed slot. Each of these offices has responsibilities and authorities that a president can use to help drive policy across government. It is vital that the director and his political staff, not the careerists, derive these offices in pursuit of the president's actual priorities and not let them set their own agenda based on the wishes of the sprawling good government management community in and outside of government. Many directors do not properly prioritize the management portfolio, leaving it to the deputy of management, but such neglect creates purposeless bureaucracy that impedes a president's agenda. OFPP office plays a critical role in leading development of new policies and regulations concerning the federal contracting and procurement through the Federal Acquisition Regulatory Council, which is generally chaired by OFPP administrator, helps the director to set a wide range of policies for all those who contract with the executive branch. In the past, those government-wide contracting rules have played a key role in helping to implement the president's policy agenda. Now, the OPPM, the director, helps federal agencies to establish their performance goals and performance review processes. OPM also works with the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, OPM, to establish and manage personnel policies and practices across the federal government. The director should instruct OPPM to establish annual performance goals and review processes for agencies that reflect the government's agenda. Now, OFFM, this office helps the director to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in federal programs, for example, do not pay program. OFCIO, this office guides the federal government's use and adoption. Oh my God, you cannot believe. Mm, mm, mm. Okay, this office guides the federal government's use and adoption of internet based technologies to improve government operations and save taxpayer money. MIAO, building on the example and work of Trump administration, President Biden established this office to centralize, carry out, and further develop the federal government's Buy American and other Made in America commitments. Its work ought to be continued and further strengthened. Yeah, this gonna be a part 2 and 3 because this kind of boring, but I still want to read what he thought, but it is boring. Regulatory Information Policy, OMB's ORA plays an enormous, vital role in reining in the regulatory state and ensuring the regulations achieve important benefits while imposing minimum burdens on Americans. The President should maintain Executive Order 12866, the foundational order's review of regulatory actions. Okay. The next president should also reinstate the many executive orders signed by President Trump that were designed to make the regulatory process more just, efficient, and transparent. And he goes on to name these executive orders. He's saying that these executive orders 13771, 13777, 13891, 13892, 13893, 13924, Section 6 of 13979, and 13980 should be revised with modifications as needed. Executive Order 13132 on federalism should be strengthened so that state regulatory and fiscal operations are not commanded by federal government through so-called cooperative federalism programs. Additionally, the president should revise and sign an updated version of President Ronald Reagan's Executive Order 12630 and federal takings. The next president should strengthen implementation of the Information Quality Act, use the Authority of Paperwork Reduction Act carefully, enforce the Privacy Act, ensure the sound executional or statistical and other information policy functions. But executive reforms and actions, while vital, are not enough. Congress also must act. The next president should work with Congress to pass significant regulatory policy and process reforms which go a long way toward reining in the administrative state. Finally, the next president should work with Congress to maximize the utility of the Congressional Review Act, which allows Congress to undo midnight regulatory actions, including those disguised as guidance on accelerated timeline. Okay, I'm about to come back with part 3 because we about to do you can't make this up episode 2. All right, so we'll be back for part 2 later. Let me know. I stopped at National Security Council because this is boring, but hey, I got to get back to some of my old content. All right, y'all, like, share, subscribe.